Well, good morning, everyone. Another early start here in Zion. It was really windy last night. Really windy. I have some friends that are in Death Valley right now, and they said that it was, 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds, and it never quite got that strong here. But considering that we're pretty sheltered here in the canyon, the wind was really kicking up. And it's weird because yesterday when I was walking around in the washes, when I was in the sun, temperature was in the high 60s Fahrenheit. It actually got a little on the warm side, but then you get down in some of those canyons and it was quite chilly there. Last night I got down to about freezing, but over the coming days, I think tonight the low is supposed to be 19 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the day after is supposed to be 13 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a pretty big temperature shift here. The weather forecast shows there's actually a chance of snow coming up here in the morning, and temperature wise, I don't doubt that. It's just a matter of if the clouds that are dropping anything head this way. But I have some thoughts in mind as far as what I'd like to do if I do manage to be here during some snow. But otherwise, I plan on scouting some of the washes and going to some of the areas where there's some flowing streams and see if any interesting ice formed overnight, anything I can work with there. But this will definitely be an interesting day. I don't quite know what to expect, but I'm just gonna kind of go with it and see what happens. Another thing too, earlier today, there's some cliffs back over there, and I heard some really, basically sounded like thunder, and pretty sure it was a rock fall that was happening. So also very important to be aware that when it's windy, things have a tendency to fall, so it's good not to walk under things. So I'm going to keep that in mind as well. But the sun's coming up a little bit here now, as is the wind as I'm talking right now. But I think it's about time to start driving into the canyon and see what I could find. I've been walking through some of the washes here in some of the higher elevation areas, and they got just a tiny little bit of snow, probably just from a passing cloud. It really didn't amount to very much. But the sun is now up, and it's getting really windy. Really windy. And I'm really curious what's gonna happen. There's definitely a chance of some snow here. If it does, I think it'll be just more of a passing snow shower. And the light right now is rather flat because there's some clouds that are catching the light and kicking it down here in these washes. But I'm just taking it in and looking for ice and get some ideas as far as things that grab my attention. Another thing that's really cool about Zion in the wintertime is that in the main canyon, the cottonwoods, when they are stripped of their leaves, are really beautiful. So if I don't find anything up here, I'll definitely be heading down there and see if I can find some cool trees to maybe get some photos of at some point. I also do have my game camera with me, so I found some mountain lion tracks yesterday that were probably a couple days old, and I wouldn't mind setting up the game camera in a remote side canyon that is away from anyone else, over where I saw those tracks. But I'm gonna keep wandering here and see what I could find. So as I'm wandering through the washes this morning, I'm looking for anything that grabs my attention for one reason or another, whether it's different textures, colors, shapes, subjects, anything along those lines. And as I was walking along, I heard something, and it was a pine cone falling from a nearby pine tree. And I looked at the base and I see all these pine cones just spread out among the really clean wash here. And I'm just studying the scene to see if I can find a composition in it. I haven't found anything yet. But the same thing happened when I was looking at some of the ice yesterday. I was just walking past it. I couldn't find anything, and then about 5 minutes later I found a really nice composition just hidden away there. So there could very well be something back behind me here. I'll keep looking at it for a little while longer, but I think that's one of the things I enjoy about this process, just looking for something that grabs your attention, slowing down, enjoying the moment, and seeing if I can find a way to put a composition on it. So I'm gonna stay this for a little while longer and see if anything jumps out. Well, the snow is mostly settled down. A few little flakes falling here and there, but it's areas of sun coming out, and most of the snow that fell in more of the exposed areas has already melted. But down here in some of the washes, it's just gathering in a kind of a cool way. But this area back here, this is the exact location where I shot that photo yesterday. And you can see how much has changed with just that little bit of snow on there, completely obscuring what is behind it. Now, yesterday when I came across this scene, I was thinking to myself, maybe I'll just come back and shoot it in the morning. But instead I decided to go back to my truck, get my camera, come back here, wait out the conditions, and expose some film. And I'm really, really glad that I did that, because that photo doesn't exist anymore. And who knows what's going to happen with some of the snow that is sticking to some of the sandstone formations that's kind of north facing. As that starts to melt, you might get enough water from that to gently flow through the washes here and revamp everything. So that scene might be forever gone even after the snow is gone. But I'm hoping that if we get a little more water flowing through here with a little bit of snow melt, that I might be able to get some new fresh ice to work with in the coming days when it gets really, really cold. But in any case, I'm really happy that I was able to expose some film on the scene yesterday. And now I think I'm going to head over to a side canyon and see about setting up my game camera in an area where I saw some mountain lion paw prints yesterday. So let's go and get that set up.
I placed my game camera near where I found the mountain lion tracks, then drove to the main canyon and went for a peaceful walk along the Virgin River. I wandered along a familiar bend of the river, one that I've visited countless times through the years. It was now late in the afternoon and the river was cast aglow with the reflection of a nearby sandstone wall. By then the skies overhead were clear, and all traces of the snow that morning were gone. I worked carefully among the slippery rocks and crafted a simple composition of the river itself. I used my 450mm lens with a bit of front tilt to get the entire scene in focus, then spot metered off a gray card I placed on the rocks at my feet. My exposure was 1 second at f/45. I photographed this scene with both Fuji ProVia 100F and Velvia 50. While making each exposure, I moved my head close to the camera so I can hear the soft click of the shutter, an important sound that was otherwise lost to the constant, reassuring voice of the river itself.
I ended up exposing 3 sheets of film on that scene of the river. 2 sheets of Velvia 50 and a single sheet of ProVia 100. My window for light was excellent. When I first got there, the light was pretty good, but it was still going to get better and better. But by the time I finished my last exposure, the sun had moved, the shadows were shifting into the background. Now I started to lose that really nice, warm light that's reflected in the river. So that worked out really well. But I think back to today and the snow that fell in the morning, being able to hike through the washes and through the slot canyons as the snow was falling. It's the first time I've been here in those same sort of conditions, and just watching the whole landscape around me transform. That was really cool. And now it's just blue skies, reflected light, just a little on the chilly side. And on that note, it's going to be really cold overnight. It's supposed to be, I think, somewhere around 16 degrees Fahrenheit, 19 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in there, and then even colder tomorrow night. So I think tomorrow the plan will be to go to some of the streams that flow year-round that come from springs and see if I can find some interesting ice along them. So that'll be kind of fun to check for in the morning. But now it's time to head back to camp, make myself some dinner. I probably gotta load some film before my fingers freeze up and they're already getting a little chilly here. But I want to thank everyone for watching. I'll see you around next time.
I remained in Zion for 2 additional days, and though I only recorded a handful of videos, these are among my most enjoyable days of my trip. I spent time revisiting familiar locations and even photographed a wonderful stretch of ice along a gently flowing creek. I was satisfied with the work I had done, and after spending 10 days in the field, I knew it was time to head home. When I set out on these trips, I'm often overwhelmed by the work that lies ahead of me. That's especially true when it's my first trip of the year. Along with that comes the pressure of taking photos I'm truly satisfied with. This pressure often manifests itself as frustration and self-doubt in the early days of my trip. And even though I'm quite familiar with this pattern, it always seems to catch me off guard. These are the very moments that define us, and rather than bending under their pressure, I've learned to push through them and to use the experience as an opportunity to learn and to grow as a photographer. That's why I create a video for each and every day of the trip, including the days when I'm not especially proud of the final photograph. It's only when we're honest about the experience as a whole that we give greater context to the work we truly are proud of. Equally important are the days when the experience itself is far greater than the work we produce, including the evening I waited patiently alongside my camera for a break in the wind that would never arrive. The world has changed tremendously since I returned from this trip. I look back at these videos and realize how much I miss these wide open spaces. It's so easy to take those moments for granted, and I look forward to the day when it's safe once more to venture into the great outdoors. The simple joys of reading a book in the desert, or hearing my own footsteps echo through a narrow canyon will be possible once more. And although the road ahead is uncertain, it's important to understand that brighter times await us. We're surrounded by opportunity, and whether we choose to recognize it or not is entirely within our own ability. Each and every footstep leads us to the very place we're meant to stand. And it's only when we maintain a positive mindset that we can better recognize the beauty that surrounds us. Much like that maple leaf embedded in the ice, this too is a fleeting moment. I want to thank you as always for following this series. I look forward to sharing my next trip. I shot the photo of the river reflection with both Fuji Pro V100F, as seen on the right, and Velvia 50, as seen on the left. Though the photo taken with Velvia 50 is fun to look at, the rendition on Provia is easier to scan and has more accurate color. The faster film speed of Provia allowed me to use a quicker shutter speed, which helped preserve some wonderful texture on the surface of the water. Just after taking this photo, the cliff in the background fell into shadow, and the beautiful light on the river was gone. I was in the right place at the right time, and I truly enjoyed my experience that evening. The photo of the ice taken on the evening of day 10 was also a pleasant surprise. I found this subject while wandering along a creek and cleaning up bits of trash left behind by others. The ice here was very thin, and it was difficult to maneuver my camera into place. I used my normal lens and overextended my bellows to photograph the ice at nearly 1:1. Much like the previous scene, I photographed this subject with both Fuji Pro V100F and Velvia 50, and I preferred the look of Fuji Pro V100F. For those of you keeping track at home, I finally got passed by a Prius on my way home from this trip. It was a Prius C, but I think those still count. Thanks as always for watching. I look forward to sharing my next trip. If you enjoy this ad-free and clickbait-free content and want to help me live my dream, A voluntary contribution of just $24 a year helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. For more information on how to support me and my work, please visit the donation section of my website at benhorn.com/donate. I also have prints and my portfolio box set available on my website. You can find a direct link down below in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support.